and my seasons. And we should be good. So I've got 4 chicken breast fillets. What we're going to do is we're going to fillet them in half. Then we're going to marinate them with some Worcestershire sauce. I'm actually going to slice them up. That way we can saute all the chicken up. Then put it over our salad on here. But we'll fillet them in half first. You know what? I actually think we might cook them as fillets. That way they'll be even juicier when we put them on our salad. There we go. Filleting them in half will allow them to cook up faster, which means they will remain nice and tender. My son, he was like, "Oh, do you think you could make fried chicken again?" And I was like, "We just had fried chicken. We can't have fried chicken every day." He's like, "Please." And I was like, "Well, I'll make a chicken salad with sauteed chicken," which Evie was very, very excited for because she has been asking for a salad. Salad's one of her favorite foods. I know it's kind of strange for a 10-year-old, but I was like, you know what? I've been craving a salad too. I feel like with the holidays, you eat so much rich food that it's nice to have some lighter fare. Okay. This will be my chicken hand. This is my clean hand. First, we're going to go in with some Worcestershire sauce. This Worcestershire sauce is going to make it the chicken nice and juicy and flavorful. It kind of helps break down the natural fat in the chicken breast on there. So we're going to give a nice little drizzle over, kind of coat it up. I'm going to lay out each fillet here. And then we're going to do our seasoning today. We're going to do herbs de Provence to kind of go with our croutons, and black pepper and garlic salt. So let's do our garlic salt. Nice sprinkle over. A little bit of black pepper. And then herbs de Provence is essentially, you know how you have Italian seasoning, Greek seasoning. Think of it like the French seasoning. It's a very aromatic one. This one has lavender in it, which just smells so lovely when you're cooking, and you just have a slightly more aromatic, um, you know, flavors to it. I almost feel like when you see, because you can see the little bits of lavender, I feel like I'm using flour sprinkles. But we're going to flip it over, and then we're going to kind of coat the other side as well with these herbs as well. And then we'll heat up our oil in our pan and start searing this off. And then once they're cooked, we'll kind of slice them up to add on there. I was going to slice and pre-slice them, but doing that secondary slice actually will keep them more juicy and tender. A little black pepper. And this is just a really great way to do chicken breast that has a whole lot of flavor, but isn't like, you know, keeps it pretty healthy for the most part, you know? We'll cook it up in some olive oil. Simple. There we go. Perfect. Okay, let me wash my hands and we'll get this going. But we have our nice chicken here that we'll add for our salad. And then we'll prep up our salad. We're going to make a creamy ranch balsamic vinaigrette. So back when I was in college, and this is kind of crazy, but my college had a really great salad bar. I went to school at Iowa State. So just imagine you're in the farm state, they're going to have a great salad bar. But I would always take their salad dressings and I would do a scoop of ranch and a scoop of balsamic vinaigrette. And it was like my favorite mixture of salad dressing. So this is kind of a similar mixture of it. We are going to pan, kind of saute our chicken here. So we don't need a whole lot of olive oil in here, just a little bit, probably like 1 to 2 tablespoons, kind of coat it off. When we do our second round, we might need to add a little bit more, but just enough to kind of coat little bottom layer of it, but not like when we're frying our chicken. Once that's nice and hot, make sure your pan gets heated up before you put your chicken in, and then we'll saute our chicken off. Okay. Let's get the crumbs off from when we cut our bread here. Here we go. Let's get our salad going, and then we'll work on our salad dressing here. But we can start kind of building up the base of it. I know my daughter was very, very excited when she saw the salad. She's like, oh, we're having salad. I told you salad is one of her favorite foods ever since she was little. And I mean, when she was like, I remember her being like 1 year old, and we'd be at the pool, and I always got the salad at the pool to go to. They had like a little grill, and she would just sit there and she would eat my tomatoes, my feta cheese. She would eat them out of my salad every single day, and she's loved salads ever since then. And she's always had the strangest palates, and I always think that she has such strange palate because she spent the first 6 months of her life on a feeding tube, and one that completely bypassed her stomach. And so she had nothing to taste by mouth in the beginning. I think I've got a little bit of caramel on my things. Or brown sugar, clean that off. But she loves like wasabi almonds and straight up like lemons and limes. Sour food does not bother her in the least. She just has some really strong flavor profiles. And I always think it's like, you like all this because you didn't have any of it for the longest time. Okay, I think we've got that. Let's get our chicken on here. Beautiful. I'm going to turn it down now to about a 6. And we'll sear this off. We can do. Perfect. We'll do 4 in here. And this should cook up fairly fast because, again, they're nice and thin. And we'll want them to get a nice kind of brownish, crispy edge on them.
Yeah, was it a J tube?
She had an NJ, and then a nasal to their jejunum, and then she had an NG tube, which is their nasal to her gastric. So it bypassed all the way there. And then once she was able to tolerate, she had the NJ for 3.5 months, and then we moved up to an NG tube. But she pulled that NJ tube out so many times that every time you pull it out, you have to go back to the hospital to get it x-rayed, to get it put back in. I used to joke because she had so many like x-rays and at the time try to figure out what was going on, because when we went into the hospital with her, they were like, it's her heart, it's her brain, it's her stomach, it's her lungs, it's her heart. We had like 3 weeks where we had no answers, and then they finally figured out that she just didn't know how to eat without aspirating into her lungs. And then she had really bad reflux on top of that. So that's where we went to the NJ to bypass all of that. But it took us a while to get there. But she had so many like x-rays and scans that I was like, I bet you she's going to glow in the dark when she was on there, but it's so funny because we used to always say that we were too easy on her in the beginning. And I always told my husband, this was so easy. She's got his wrapped around her finger. She's like a little princess. And that was always, well, she had such a rough start to life. And I was like, but that girl is so tough now. You could never imagine that she was this little puny thing on oxygen and a feeding tube and in the hospital for so long. She's a real like trooper, but I think she got babied a little too much in the beginning because of it, and she knows it. She really knows how to work those little puppy dog eyes. There we go. Get that in here. Let's check our chicken. We can see our chicken is looking pretty good. I can start to see it coming around. Look at that beautiful saute on it. Gorgeous. I'm going to rotate and put my hot side up here. We'll grab some new tongs so when we're ready to take out for that second round, and a plate. Okay. Get these last bit of our peppers chopped up. In our salad, our veggies, we're going to have sweet peppers. So I've got the orange in there. We'll do the yellow and the red because I was like, oh, let's make it a rainbow. Honestly, this meal is like everything that Evie loves because she loves peppers, she loves tomatoes, she loves avocados. This is her favorite chicken. This is always, she always talks, she calls this the pool chicken because they would just make a sauteed chicken on their salad. So she's like, Mom, can you make me the pool chicken salad? And which is just the sauteed chicken on there and then, a simple, ranch dressing on there. So this is going to be her thing, especially because she's our most picky eater. And it's so funny because this is the food that most parents probably dream that they could get their kids to eat. And then, but I can't get her to eat a potato in any form or, French fries, won't touch them. Regular food that most kids love, won't touch. She's a strange kid, but a sweet one when she wants to be. There we go. So we've got our peppers on there. We've got to add a little pop of color into our salad. And I've got a baby cucumber here that we'll slice up and add on there. And then I think we'll be about ready to take this chicken out and get our next round in. There we go. Toss in. We'll get our cucumbers in here. Okay, let's check this chicken out. Let me give it a good look. Almost. Perfect. We're looking good. Maybe another minute or two. Okay. These are her. She came by and she's like, can I have some tomatoes, please, Mom? And I was like, I'll put them in your salad. Don't worry. She's my little garden helper. And, back when the time I have my garden, and I didn't realize how much she loved tomatoes, except when we'd go out there and I'd be like, okay, help me pick all the tomatoes. And she would eat them all and we'd never have a harvest because she would just sit there and pick off the tomatoes off the plants because she loves the cherry tomatoes so much in there. And she is my one kid who this is her dream meal. It was, I think last year, my brother took her to a Preds game and he made a joke about, because you go to a Preds game, which is the hockey game, and it's concession food. So like hot dogs, nachos, stuff like that. And you go to joke, oh, we're only having salads for dinner. And she got so excited. She was like, really, really? And then she was apparently so disappointed when there was no salad to be had at the Preds game. And he goes like, I didn't really mean to upset her. I thought I was joking around, thought she would be upset if she had to eat a salad. Let's get our tomatoes on. Nice pop of color. Let's get our round of chicken off here. Looking beautiful. Perfect. We'll let it sit for a few minutes before we cut it. That way you don't ever want to cook your chicken or anything or cut it when it's right off, because if you do, all of the natural juices will come out and it will dry out. So always let it sit for a minute or two before you slice it. We'll get our second round on here. I'm going to just let that oil heat up just a second. There we go. See if we can squeeze all four of these guys on here. Perfect. Okay. Do a quick wash. Let's whip up our salad dressing, then we can add the last little bits to our salad. We're going to do, again, I'm doing like a half ranch, half balsamic vinaigrette. So we're kind of using both ingredients for this, which is lovely. let me forgot to grab my cream out of the fridge. There we go. So we'll use our mayo, which is kind of your base in a ranch dressing. So we're going to do about, it's going to be like 2 ounces if I can get it around there. So about 1/4 of a cup. And then let's grab our oil. We do equal parts oil and mayo. So I'll do 2 ounces of our oil. A little splash more. And then we're going to do about a tablespoon of cream. That's going to go for our ranch flavor to give you that kind of fresh milk feeling to it. We're going to add in some fresh lemon juice, squeezed from half a lemon. There we go. And let me wash my hands since that was a very juicy lemon. And then we're going to add in some balsamic vinegar. You're going to add in about 2 tablespoons. And then I have my ranch seasoning. If you were using like a ranch seasoning pack, you'd use about half of it. We're going to add in about 2 tablespoons of our ranch seasoning to this. That's 1 tablespoon and 2. And then we're going to give this a good shake up. And this will be like our mix between a balsamic vinaigrette and a ranch dressing, which is one of my just favorite combos. And very simple. Let me give it a taste, see if I need to add any other ingredients. Perfect. And you can see it's got like it's not too thick. It's got, that consistency that runs a little bit smoother than a ranch. Now it will thicken up a little bit more as that ranch dressing packet sets. Let's get our chicken here flipped over. Beautiful. Okay. We're done with this part. Okay. We've got our chicken cooking up there. Let's finish up the rest of our salad and get it going here. So we're going to add in some avocado for our salad. So if your avocado is nice and ripe, you should be able to peel it away from your, like the skin should be able to peel off. That way when we go to slice it up, you can slice it up nicely. If it's unripe, it's going to stick to it. So this is like right at that cusp of being ripe. Perfect. There you go. You can peel it off nice. If it's overripe, then you'll know that because it'll be brown. Let me get this seed out. There we go. But this is how like restaurants, they don't scoop out their avocados. They like peel their skin back and they give you that really pretty base to it so you can slice it up nicely. Let me wash my hands. Avocado slime. Give it a little shake. And let's get a little bit. I'm going to slice them halfway through here. That way we can cube them up nicely. To put on our salad. We'll have our and we'll do the same with our next one. I'll just slice it through and then we'll You can cube it up.
You have a question? Do all the kids and your husband eat avocado?
Yes, everybody loves avocado here. I think it's I made all of my kids baby food as they were growing up, and one of their first foods was avocado and bananas. So they all love it. They all love guacamole. That's like their favorite. I like chips and guac. They all love it. Now, it took my husband a long time for him to actually try guacamole and avocados. He just couldn't get over the green. And I think it was half of our marriage he refused to try. And then he finally tried it and he loved it. And he has been eating it ever since. And then I tried to get him to try hummus, and then he didn't like hummus on that. But we got him to try guacamole, and he loves it. And he now loves avocado on pretty much everything. It's one of those things that it really doesn't have that much of a flavor. It really just takes on all of your other, like the flavors in there, but it's so delicious. So, like growing up in the summers, our crisp is calling us. I'm gonna turn this down because we'll be ready to get there. But growing up in the summers, I would visit my grandparents in Spain, and their house was kind of on this mountain / hill, and you had the Mediterranean below, and you had this avocado farm next to it. Ooh, little puppet. This one bubbled up nicely on here. We got lots of apple goo on it. Delicious. The farmer there, he was like, if the avocado fell on the ground, you could have it. You just couldn't pick them from the tree. So, we'd always go walk, and if we found a good avocado on the ground, we'd bring it back and we'd eat. Here is our lovely apple crisp. It bubbled over just a little bit on there, but you can see just this nice, delicious crisp on there with lots of apple flavor in it. Our chicken is just about ready to come off here. This is our second round of chicken. And then we'll pop it on our salad here in just a second. Perfect. I'm going to turn this heat off. We'll let it rest for a second. Because again, you don't want to chop your chicken right when it comes off, because then it will seize and let out all of its juices. But here is our beautiful chicken. And then let's finish up. We've got to add a little bit of cheese to our salad. I've got some sharp cheddar on there. I said those were the best avocados. And I feel like we ate the avocados, and then when I came back, it was like that's when avocados and guacamole started to get really big here in the US, because they weren't really a big thing in the early 90s or mid 90s. It wasn't until the late 90s that avocados, guacamole became a big thing, that I felt like that it was like everywhere. You always had it at like Taco Bell or like your 7-layer bean dip, but wasn't everywhere. I've got some extra sharp cheddar cheese. This is the Kerrygold Reserve.
You have a question? What's the best way to keep your chicken breast tender and not tough?
You don't want to overcook them. And I like to use Worcestershire sauce when I'm seasoning. The Worcestershire has a vinegar base in it, and you do not taste it all when you cook it. But that natural acidity to it helps break down the natural fat in the chicken, which allows it to be extra juicy when you cook it up. I use it on pretty much all of my chicken and pork, because it really does make a huge difference between a dry chicken or a juicy chicken. We're going to throw in a couple pistachios. And then we've got our croutons to go on here. And we've got quite the salad. And here you can see, let's see if you can hear how crispy they are now just by tapping on them. But they're still soft but crunchy, the best way. So we're going to put a big handful of our croutons on there, and these are the best for just snacking as well. And then I'm going to take my chicken here. I'm going to take my 4 chicken breasts that are cooked right now, that I cooked first, and we'll chop those up to add on our salad. Because again, you don't want to cut them up when they're still steaming hot, because it lets out their juices and then they won't be as juicy. You can see these are just wonderful. And I think making sure you have that proper like resting time is really important so that those natural juices can, really like stay inside your chicken. Also, making sure you start with a hot pan. It sears it off, it traps the juices inside versus a cold pan. So, really wait for your oil to warm up. Slide our chicken on here. So this is one delicious chicken salad plus extra chicken. So let's serve up. Let me grab a plate here. Actually, we'll do ours in a bowl.
Can you go over the seasonings for the chicken?
Yes. So the chicken, really, really simple seasoning. And this is the key. Worcestershire sauce, the acidity in this, there is vinegar in it, but you don't taste it, but it breaks down and makes it really juicy. And then we used herbes de Provence or herbs from Provence, black pepper, and garlic salt. Super simple. And then just saute it up in oil. So delicious. And it's kind of the same seasonings that we used on our croutons. So those flavors, they're very aromatic, will come through and just be absolutely lovely, a more fragrant flavor. Okay, let me grab our thing. We'll serve up. Oh, and I've got to, where are my claws? I have these salad tongs. Haha. I always joke about these. I've had these salad tongs longer than I've known my husband. I will say I've had them since I was in high school. Random why I still have them, but I bought them and I love them because they remind me of like little, I know it's so random. I love weird things like this. But let's start with our thing. So we're going to get a nice scoop of our salad. So we've got romaine lettuce, chopped up sweet peppers, onions, tomatoes, and avocados, baby cucumbers, our sauteed chicken that we seasoned with herbes de Provence on there. I'm going to sprinkle a couple more of our homemade sourdough croutons over the top. They've just got a nice little crunch to it. And then we made our homemade balsamic ranch dressing, which has a ranch base to it, as well as balsamic vinaigrette. So it's that perfect tangy meets the home style ranch, which plays perfectly with the chicken. And then for dessert, we have our delicious apple crisp here, made with the apples that we slept under our pillows with so that they will bring us good health into the new year. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us here. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I try to do live cooking shows every single day. Hopefully teach you guys something and show you what we're making for our family. We also upload all of our videos to the link on our page. So if you ever want to recreate any of these recipes at home, you can just go to our page, search for what we made. So we've got our salad with our apple crisp, and you can watch and cook along with me again. We also have a link to our Amazon storefront that has all of our different cooking gear and gadgets in it. I've got my Hexclad pans, my Dutch oven, I've got my big bowl here, I've got everything I use in the kitchen in there for you guys to check out. But again, thank you so much for joining us here.